What's up, everybody? This is Elan Jones, and it's been a minute. I've been away for a minute, and I thought to do this video explaining why light-skinned YouTubers in this sector of YouTube don't last very long. So the people who watch me also watch other light-skinned people in this community, and everyone pretty much knows what happened to their channels. Some got flagged down, others voluntarily left. And in this video, I'll be explaining why this tends to happen. So I'm going to start with what we're up against. There are a few things that make it difficult to stay on this platform, to put it bluntly. So number one, angry nerds. This sector of YouTube has a revenge of the nerds theme, and nerds are very serious about hate and revenge for some reason. And I think we know this, and I think that we see this. We're also dealing with death threats, hate mail, doxing, and cancel culture, or being canceled, the risk of being canceled. Things that scare you or will ruin your life. This is the epitome of censorship. And speaking of censorship, big platforms like this one, don't allow opposing opinions. They won't publish your comments. They'll penalize your account. So there's a lot of censorship going on here that annoys people. People complain about it all the time, especially when subscribers don't see their comments. You know, every time I try to comment on a video, it's immediately deleted. We're dealing with that. But they allow hate speech, blatant hate speech and content from these other content creators, from these other channels. So this is something that people feel it's not worth it to continue. We're also dealing with light-skinned people who are quote unquote woke, light-skinned and biracial people who reject themselves in order to be in the good graces of the Black community, the rest of the Black community. These people agree with the hate speech against them. You can see how that's counterproductive. And so far, every light-skinned and biracial person on social media is this way. That's an overwhelming amount of people. So sometimes your efforts may seem futile and you're likely to give up. Also, we're dealing with people with mental instabilities and disorders on this platform. This is a touchy subject. I understand that people are very sensitive about this sort of thing, but it is what it is. A few colorism content creators have actually admitted to having these disorders. I think that it goes without saying that mental illness and mental disorders, mental afflictions, distorts thinking, influences thinking, and if you have a target in mind that you think is the reason for why you're going through a hard time in life, the disorder is going to influence how they handle that situation. And we've seen that on this platform, definitely. We're also dealing with bullying and harassment. We're dealing with a ring of female YouTubers and also gay male YouTubers who work together towards an organized smear campaign against light-skinned women. These women and these men and their followers constantly attack light-skinned YouTubers and try to have their channel taken down or successfully have their channel flagged down. Again, YouTube allows this sort of thing. These people are never penalized for things that people who go against the grain would be penalized for. That's unfair. And overall, this type of unfairness and harassment and bullying makes staying on this platform stressful and unattractive, so that people may leave. So now I'm going to get into the reasons why people don't maintain their YouTube channel. First, obviously everything else that I just mentioned. This sector of YouTube is extremely toxic. It's not good for your mental health, especially if you're a part of this smaller targeted group. And especially if you're a real woman. So let me break that down. This sector of YouTube becomes too much for feminine women. You see how these other women have to fake femininity. I have a video on that. I'm not taking a jab here, but this is because they're not like conventional women. They admit to being more on the robotic side. These types of women seem to work predominantly with the left side of their brains. So the left side is the logical, mechanical side. This is the way of thinking that men usually have. There's nothing inherently wrong with people like this, but this is a specific type of person and it affects how they operate here on social media. So these women in this sector are very similar to men. For example, they don't need much sleep. They work like men. They think like men. They operate like men. They have similar emotionality as men. This sector of YouTube will overwhelm the conventional woman, especially without adequate support, which I'll touch on later. So considering this, the person may leave. Also, for the most part, light-skinned YouTubers are regular people, not aspiring media personalities, not covert narcissists searching for the power that they wish they had in high school. So that means that things happen in our lives. That means that there will be inevitable interruptions. And we as regular people may be less equipped to balance YouTube and our personal lives when those things happen. And we're not supported enough to choose YouTube over our life, over anything else that we have going on. So the person may leave. These other YouTubers seem impervious to situations like these. Life getting in the way, life tearing you away from YouTube. And this leads me to my next point. We, meaning the light-skinned YouTubers that used to be here and that are here now, we may also have more of a life than these other YouTubers, just as people. As a YouTuber, I'll tell you that a lot of work and time goes into creating content. It's impossible to create consistently as these other YouTubers do. When you factor in work, family, friends, dating, sex, leisure time, self-care, time with God, spiritual maintenance, and to have fully edited videos like these people do about current events as they happen, that's very hard to do. It's an on-demand lifestyle, and these things take a very long time. It wouldn't allow you to have much of a life, no matter how smart you are, no matter how fast you work. So it becomes hard to maintain your channel, so the person may leave. So now let's talk about incentive and support. So it also becomes especially hard when you don't have the financial incentive to put out videos and you're lacking other types of support. I don't know to what extent the other light-skinned YouTubers in this sector have been supported financially, but I want to say that if you support a content creator or you appreciate them, you should probably make a financial contribution. It's definitely an incentive for creating more content more consistently, if that's what you want to see. But also keep in mind the risks of having a channel like this, of speaking out on a subject like this. Keep in mind that we're putting our lives on the line to speak out about these things. There's always a risk of these people, these other women, the rest of the internet, who consider us their enemies, trying to ruin our lives. Again, this is why all of the light-skinned YouTubers are anonymous. Otherwise, there's been a lack of physical support. Most light-skinned people are not going to speak up. We know why. The ones who aren't scared or conditioned or fake woke, they don't have much of a presence on social media. So to an activist or a content creator who is light-skinned, who's going against the grain, it might not feel like a collective effort. And the person may feel like they're the only one who's being proactive. That's a lot for one person, and they'll leave. And now I'm going to talk about the Black community in general and how it runs and what it's receptive to and how that affects this situation. So Black people culturally see bullying as a legitimate form of strength and bravery. So when you have situations like these with millions of dark-skinned people working together towards harming light-skinned people socially, physically, professionally, it's accepted as a social norm in the community. I talk about social comparisons a lot, social comparison theory, trying to drive home the point that this is something that Black people will always partake in when they want to feel better about themselves and when they want to feel powerful. Black people would be reluctant to admit this because this behavior has always been reinforced and there are never any consequences for it, even legally, as people outside of the Black community don't know that this is going on because everyone on both sides is keeping this a secret. This is like a dark family secret. So IQ and EQ plays a part in this as well. Intelligence plays a part in what people believe and what people understand. Depending on where they're at, they may or may not be fully aware of the truth of the situation, meaning that people are going to have their own biases if they're not intellectual enough to know that their bias is getting in the way. So we're also dealing with a lot of ignorance in the community. And this isn't to slight anybody, but it is what it is. There's a lot of ignorance because people are unwilling to do their own research. So they're relying on certain content creators, certain leaders to inform them of things without thinking critically, thinking independently, doing their own independent research. So considering this, not everybody's going to have the intellectual capacity to understand this colorism thing. That's discouraging. So if you're trying to speak out against it, you already know that the masses are thoroughly influenced or brainwashed, however you want to look at it, by the leaders who understand how the masses think, the leaders who understand that they can be manipulative with what they teach the majority. So for honest content creators, sometimes it feels like you're making content for yourself or you're making content in vain. And that's discouraging, and the person may want to just not create content anymore. So when it comes to this colorism topic, you need IQ to be at a certain level and you need EQ to be at a certain level. EQ is emotional intelligence. If you're low in both, you're just going to be led by these leaders and whatever it is that they tell you. If you're high in one and low in another, it's still not going to work out because you need empathy. Empathy is a part of this conversation. From what I'm seeing, there's no empathy for the people who are being scapegoated because they don't want any empathy for those people, right? You're scapegoated, you're painted black, you're bad, you know, there's no empathy, there's no emotional intelligence. And certain people have been dehumanized and the masses thinks that it's okay. As a YouTuber, over time, you may wonder if it's worth it, if people even understand what you're talking about. And some people just decide to quit and leave. Another thing, people are angry and frustrated and they're looking for a hate community on both sides. They're less likely to support you unless you're making hate content or really biased content. It's not really progressive. I think that this should be about liberation, not war. But I'll say that it is hard to address these issues and remove your personal feelings from it. And depending on how you feel, it might naturally make it into that type of content because your feelings are so strong, coupled with the frustration and panic of being a part of the smaller targeted group. So now I'm talking about the light skin end of things. So I can understand why people fall into that type of delivery. But also on the other hand, Expressing your feelings is healthy, even if it's anger, but it's not usually done in a way that's conducive to what we're trying to do here. So it's not constructive anger. It usually does not come out that way. It can't be unbridled anger and sadism and retribution, which is what we're getting from these YouTubers. A lot of these people are also narcissists. So the minute you get angry, these people are going to spin the situation and say that you're unstable or you're attacking them. So a lot of this is coming from the other end of the colorism conversation, from the majority. So anger is not always the best route. If you're trying to take a different route when it comes to this colorism thing, it's not very well received. And that's frustrating, and the person may leave. There's also a lot of infighting. Light-skinned men versus light-skinned women, female competitiveness and cattiness, all of the regular stuff that happens really, even in other parts of this platform. Some people prefer not to be a part of that drama though, and they'll stop making content. Too dramatic over here, too much drama. People have left because of the drama. So these are all reasons why light-skinned people do not last long on this part of YouTube. I encourage light-skinned people who feel strongly about what's going on with this colorism thing to create your own channel. I encourage the light-skinned people who do have existing channels to keep at it, and thank you. And I also want to thank my supporters. I don't think I ever do that, which I don't think I do that often. You know, I just tend to talk about my topic and get out of here, but thank you guys for your support. It really means a lot to me. If you're considering creating your own channel, what I'll suggest is you try to stick to the facts as much as possible, because like I mentioned, there's low emotional intelligence and there's no empathy. There's zero empathy when it comes to this topic for you. So you need to come with the facts. You need to do research. And at this point, the conversation needs to move on to that. They don't care about how you feel. They don't care about the truth about how you've been treated your whole life and what's actually going on. They are card stacking against the light-skinned YouTubers with all of these scholarly publications and statistics and whatnot, and none of it is being looked into and none of it is being challenged. So maybe you should think about looking into those things. Thanks for watching my video. I will catch you in my next one.